You know, my family, we were Iranis. Or many of us used to say, Irani Jangi.
They're junglis.
Junglis. And today, and even then, I took pride in it.
Yeah.
We are Junglis. Rachel Carson's book, The Silent Spring, all over the world, brought in that. It was
Kind
the
of
sort of,
thinking.
to question chemicals. She made a great case against chemicals, but she suffered a lot at her time. People were very against her because it was affecting vested interests. First permaculture designer course in India.
Wow.
Where Robin Francis had come.
Acha.
Yeah. And it took some convincing for him to go. After he did the designer course, he got it. But otherwise, when your wife tells you and all that, and Peter was this great academic, and I was just a country bumpkin. Maria Montessori, whose system of education was amazing even till today. She recommended that children play in sand, water, play. Very important. Children grow up in nature. The choices they make later on in life are leaning that way. Dr. Jaydev emphasized Karma Yoga. The Karma Yoga from the Gita. And the 4 points that stay in my mind, that changed my life and brought my family back, where I reunited with my husband after 7 years. I am very grateful to them, and they know it, that it changed everything.
Our guest for today is Mona Patrao, a pioneer in sustainability, an unconventional educator, and a visionary who has dedicated her entire life to living in harmony with nature. Mona is the founder of the iconic Redstone Eco Center and Organic Farm in Panchgani. Mona is famously known to have introduced organic farming and permaculture long before they became buzzwords. Mona also established the Redstone Home School, blending alternative education with ecological awareness. A mentor to many, her innovative practices, ranging from food forests to biogas plants, have inspired generations to rethink their relationship with Mother Earth. Join us on this roller coaster conversation with Mona. Welcome to our podcast. Mona, thank you so much for taking the time and coming on this podcast. We've known each other for years, but we've never had the opportunity to unpack the life that you've led. And I think this is a great opportunity to lay it all out for our audience. And I'm very, very excited about this. So the first memory that I have of you is you wearing these worn out denim jeans, leather boots, leather jacket, in a 4x4 open roof Thar. And I was like, wow, this lady is badass, right? So you were woke even before the term existed. and you come from a well-read, illustrious family. The Mahabaleshwar Boat Club must ring a bell. And while having all the opportunities to lead all these different kinds of lives, you chose to settle in Panchgani, in this beautiful, sustainable farm. And I know it's a huge journey and a lot to unpack, but let's begin from the beginning. How did all this come to be?
Okay, so first of all, let me say that I'm very grateful that you've asked me to do this with you, because over these last few years that I have known you and Runmai, I have been very impressed by your interest in nature, in land, and just homesteading and living, close to nature. And so we don't see so many people who want to step out of their comfort zones and come and live this life. And so, yeah, I'm honored, and thank you for having me.
Thank you. Is it safe to say that the roots of this life come from your father? Is it safe to say that?
Yes, very much so. My father, he was, his family are from, at that time, called Bombay. And we had a family home there. And this is much before I was born. He used to like to come to Panchgani, Mahabaleshwar. They had a family home here near the convent school. And he had started a business in Bombay with Keki Irani. It's called Steel Age. It's a business registered in the stock exchange today. And he was the founding partner. And yet he kind of decided to give up his partnership and come and move to Panchgani. And he would cycle regularly to Mahabaleshwar. And he noticed that there was this beautiful lake with forests around. And he thought that, let me put in a few boats, people will enjoy boating. And so that's how he started the Mahabaleshwar Boat Club. And the land around the lake was forest land. It was, we had a long lease that, I wasn't born then, of course. The forest department had leased it out to him. And but forest land cannot be built on and cannot be developed, thankfully. So he had never built a house. It was always, he said that I live a camp life. And so he had a little cot. There was a little bit of a shack in which he stayed, and later on we also lived. And he had a folding cot that every day the cot would be put out at night, and he would say, the stars are my blanket.
Wow.
Yeah. And he would bathe outside also in the open air. And he would say, I've had a sun bath, air bath, and water bath. Actually, he was influenced by Bernard McFadden. In those days, there was a naturopath called Bernard McFadden. And so he liked the idea of looking at health and living through, natural living.
Nature.
Yeah, through nature. Today we call it naturopathy. So when you ask about my influence, definitely, I grew up at the banks of this lake, and I was a great dreamer. I'm a Piscean. And so the water and the dreaming were all part of it. And when my husband gave me this little opportunity to make a decision, he wrote on a slip of paper. I was barely 17, 18. We had quite a difference in our age gap. He was 13 years older than me. And he said, we won't get married. And he said, he wrote on a little, like must have been a bus ticket. He wrote, "Would you like to be the wife of a poultry farmer?" And the other side he wrote, "or an academic in the US." Now, Peter, my husband, was a brilliant academic. He had scored first class first in his master's degree in education in Delhi, Central Institute of Education. And he was on the verge, and he had the opportunity to go to the US to the best of institutes to do a PhD. And so he was at this crossroads. Should we go for farming or be in India and make a change in this country, or go to the US where we all know it's, you know, how it is. We'd probably never have come back. So when he put it to me, the decision that I made was just impulsive. When he said, "Would you like to be the wife of a poultry farmer?" The poultry bit didn't register. I mean, today poultry, you know, the big time poultry is scary. But for me, it was the farm. So the idea at that age, you know, that we'll be in wild, and, you know, we'll be in the countryside, and there'll be chickens and hens and ducks and cows and sheep and goats and all. That was a sort of childlike thought. And I instantly didn't even think. I said, "Let's go for farming." And Peter said, "Done." And in a few months' time, we came here and we got this 2-acre bit of land. There was a gentleman called Bodus who's developed the cable at the tableland, and he helped him to source the land. And we didn't look for views or anything. The first bit of land we said, and we got it. So that's what.
Far out.
Yeah, I mean, it was the being in the forests in Mahabaleshwar that made me instinctively, just without much thought, decide that we're not going to the US, because the US is normally considered an opportunity.
It's still considered as an opportunity.
Yeah.
And let's pause here and let's really unpack this, right? Because this is very interesting. Not a lot of people, the joy with which you say ducks and hens and cows and sheep is not the same kind of excitement. I mean, it triggers a kind of excitement in you. I can see it in your eyes, right? But that's not the same reaction the majority of people have. So there's something in the value system and the conditioning that has been instilled, right? And that's something that I really want to get at. Because if we can manage to get this excitement in all the children's eyes or all the teenagers' eyes about ducks and goats and sheep and cows, I think we'll be living a very different future 15, 20 years down the line. So in that context, let me just frame this, try and understand this. It must be the 70s?
Yes, early 70s.
Early 70s?
Actually, early 70s when we chose to come to the land. It was 70, 72. But my childhood was in the 60s.
Yeah, so childhood is in the 60s. You have been given this opportunity to either go to US or settle on a farm in Panchgani. You have chosen to settle on a farm in Panchgani. It's the 70s. So just to paint the picture for our listeners, it's the 70s. It's a post-war era. The country is just getting back up on its feet. There's an emergency that's going to be declared in the 70s. And in this situation of turmoil, two young people decide to not leave the country, go to US and pursue a much bigger opportunity, apparently bigger opportunity, to make more money and to make a career, but they choose to stay back in the country and start a farm. You seem to be installed with a separate, different kind of software than the rest of the country. This is again connected to the earlier question, but where is this value system coming from? Can we try and investigate how that value system came to be? Why does it put a smile on our faces when we talk about ducks and chickens and cows and all these animals frolicking and the sun shining? And Where is this value system coming from?
Well, one thing I could say, I was barely 17 or 18 when this was posed to me. And I think any child, most children actually are quite fascinated by animals. You know, it's an inclination. Today, if we don't see so much of it, it's because we've been so taken away from nature. Whole of the system of the way we learn or the way we've developed, you know, how society is developed is just completely divorced from nature. So I would say that was a normal child's, a young person's attitude. I was more childlike, but added to it, from my very beginning of my life, after I was born, my mother was back here at the lake, and that's where I grew up. Just, you know, near, my parents were busy with running the boating business, and they had a restaurant, and it wasn't easy. And there I was very free to move, and I'd run around and, you know, just be near the lake and dream. I'm a Piscean, so I've been a good dreamer. And also, you know, we were at a lake. So, I mean, I had a lot of free time to be in nature. Besides that, I don't know if I already told you that my dad used to be a lover of nature in the sense that he'd chosen to leave Bombay and come back to be in Panchgani, make his living there. And so my thinking has always been that when children grow up in nature, the choices they make later on in life are leaning that way. And that's why it's very important for us to give children an exposure to nature when they're young, a good, thorough exposure, because that will reflect on the choices they make later on.
So it's safe to say that your exposure, I was just going to come to that, your exposure to nature, not necessarily guided or pointed or anything, just being in nature, being in a state of play or joy in nature for most of your childhood, created this foundation for you where you naturally chose to be here. So it's more of an aspiration setter. Is it safe to say that?
Yes, I think so. I also, combined with that, the freedom of movement. There wasn't, I mean, in a way, you would say that some people would say this child didn't have any kind of discipline. Yeah. But there was the discipline of living in nature, which is a different kind of discipline in itself, which is not calculated or marked out. But that I feel left me or gave me that, you know, freedom to explore and just be. Yeah. I was quite a dreamer.
That is so beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I can feel the tragedy that children today in the cities are going through, where there's just no nature left, hardly a tree in sight. And, you know, this sense of free play and being one with the five elements is completely missing from their childhoods. And I mean, I can only imagine what would happen to a child who's never experienced this. So just to share a small anecdote with you, I grew up with my grandmother. My mom and dad were very busy making ends meet. Both come from very humble backgrounds. They were working with Hindustan Petroleum Corporation Limited, and they could not afford, like both of them had to work for them to survive in Bombay. So they could not afford to sort of leave one of their jobs to take care of me when I was born. So I was given to my grandmother to raise. And my grandmother was a remarkable woman. She was a farmer at heart. We had a big farm in Konkan, and there were mango trees, 350 of them. And my childhoods were spent running free under the mango trees, tending to them, plucking mangoes,
very
prepping
well.
them. Yeah, so this, I've seen snakes as a kid. I've been fascinated with them. I've climbed mango trees and plucked mangoes for pickles first and then for eating later. And I've had this free flowing childhood that you speak of, right? So I think somewhere that manifests in your later life and you yearn for it. And then, I after having my life in the corporate and the modern world, somehow I've chosen to come back to nature and I'm leading this life. So I think you're right. We share that in common. And I think there's something there that needs to be examined. And I wouldn't say put a structure on it, but I think our objective today should be to create some kind of a guideline that a new parent or a society or a school can have so that they can raise children the right way. Which brings me to a beautiful segue that in that time, in that era, when you chose to come to Panchgani, you chose to have a windmill. You chose to have a biogas plant. You were mulching and composting. You started a food forest. This is the 70s. It's ridiculous. These are buzzwords today, but back then there was no internet. Media was very restrictive. I really want to understand the desire that pulled you to do these things. When it was it easy enough to get a connection from MSEB? Was it easy enough to get cooking gas? Was this driven by necessity or was this driven by a desire to lead a low carbon life?
Good question. Actually, when we first came, we didn't have this low carbon. Low carbon is a very recent kind of phenomenon. Or even the organic vision. We were not from farming families. So it was just this raw feeling of being with just in nature, because we were in Mahabaleshwar. There was no ideology or thinking around it at all.
Okay.
It was just, actually then the organic movement hadn't taken off in India.
Course, it didn't exist.
Yeah, because Rachel Carson's book, The Silent Spring, all over the world, brought in that. It was
Kind
the
of
sort of,
thinking.
to question chemicals. And she made a great case against chemicals, but she suffered a lot at her time. People were very against her because it was affecting vested interests and big corporations. So, and that hadn't yet reached. We didn't have the internet, as you saw. So it was just being in nature. And we came here not being from farming families. It was like we just had this general feeling of being close to nature, few animals and all that. And actually, when we started, I just very soon I'd had a little baby girl, and Natasha, who grew up here, who would roam freely with all the gurawalas. The gurawalas are all the cow herds. Today, people aren't grazing animals the way they used to. So she would roam the whole day. Now she's grown up, and people still, the village, who were then the little village children, they are her age now, and they always ask, where's Natasha? And Natasha's chosen, of course, to be at Oroville, and there she's defending forests in a big way. But it started with just being free and us not knowing, but we just, that instinct of just letting things. And then after a few years, this awareness came of wanting to be more natural. So in the beginning, yes, we in fact, Peter was a science teacher and he was very much into Western science. And we, in the first 3-4 years, we used a lot of chemicals. Not a lot, we used the chemicals that the farmers were using. And it took some amount of thinking and actual persuasion to de-link from that.
But where was that instinct to de-link coming from?
Well, I would say it came a lot from having been at the Mahabaleshwar Lake and my early childhood at the Mahabaleshwar Lake. I was more, it took me some persuasion with Peter to get him to de-link it.
So you were questioning, there was something in you telling that if you're putting chemicals in the stream, something bad is happening. And maybe we are not doing the right thing, right? So where is this questioning the status quo coming from? Like, did you see something? Were there symptoms of pollution? What was not right that you chose to question the way things were being done?
Well, I remember there was an incident where Peter was trying to mix a whole lot of some kind of chemicals. I was very young and I had a very young child and I was more into homekeeping. And he had a very bad reaction with mixing this stuff. I remember very clearly. There was a room here where he was lying down. He was the type of person who said, no, I don't want anyone to bother and all. But his lips were swollen. His groin was swollen. And I remember Dr. Nifsakar, Lata Nifsakar coming and checking him and seeing, because he had worked with this chemical. So this was one of the incidences, as you're asking me.
These were the symptoms.
These were the symptoms, and it took some amount of convincing and requesting Peter actually to go for a permaculture, the first permaculture designer course in India.
Wow.
Where Robin Francis had come.
Acha.
Yeah. And it took some convincing for him to go. After he did the designer course, he got it. But otherwise, when your wife tells you and all that, and Peter was this great academic and I was just a country bumpkin. So, though he had somewhere, he said, I used to tell him, because he was he had quite a mind. And I used to say to him, what is it you see in me? And he used to say, Mona, you have instinct, which I don't have.
I can feel that too, yeah.
Yeah, he said it's the instinct. And the instinct comes from being in nature. That's what we're missing out. And I just want to go back to one point you made about free play. Use that word. But Swapnil, this is a word used in the best pedagogies of the world, where early childhood, it's needed for children to have free play. It's a word, it's a term. And yet children are stopped from free play. They need to play freely in water. Maria Montessori, whose system of education was amazing even till today. She recommended that children play in sand, water, play, very important. Mud, sand, water, texture. And actually, even the mathematical concepts are solidified in the child when the child is handling matter. So, if I take a glass that is tall and I put it with water inside, and the water is so much, and yet I take a flat bowl and I pour the same water, and the child will see that this is what they call the conversion. And the child will realize slowly after handling this that it's the shape of the vessel that gives
The
that
shape of the water.
yeah. And this is all physics and learning. Piaget was this psychologist who said that a child has to play and handle things.
Absolutely.
But it's too much effort for our schools to do it. And we are just going into rote learning. I mean, there's some of the alternative schools to do today who are doing this. But yeah, free play in nature, in the elements is vital.
We're going to come back to this.
Yeah.
This is going to be the central meat of our conversation because this is so important. If we want to have a strong, wise, balanced next generation of human beings, I think free play is going to be critical in forming these beings. So we'll come back to this. So I'm trying to understand, okay, so you have come to this remote place, you have set up a poultry farm, you're doing it the conventional way.
No, we didn't set up poultry. We had the dream of, Peter had this idea of poultry because he felt that would economically sustain us.
Right, got it.
You know, poultry was beginning in India at least, Venkateshwara, hatcheries and others. But we didn't actually go. We got our house passed as a poultry shed and we converted our land to non-agricultural land. This whole plot is non-agricultural for poultry and cow sheds and things. But we didn't go for poultry.
Oh, you never went for poultry?
No.
Okay.
We went into strawberries.
So you went into strawberries?
We went into strawberries, something that wasn't actually being done on a scale with which it has turned today. We experimented with growing strawberries in this part. It was grown in a small area near Nakita in Mahabaleshwar. Very small.
Nakita, yeah.
Yeah. But we tried out strawberries because we had Mamad, who is a Nakita village person. And we said, what do you grow? And he says, we grow strawberries. And he says, shall we learn and try? And we learned with him. And then all the villager people would come. And I tell you, Peter had a very charismatic personality. He was loved by everybody. So the village people would come at nights and they'd have these little setups, you know, where they would have chai and smoke their bidis and all. And they said, you're trying strawberries, let's see how it works. And then we were successful. And then they learned from us. And today Strawberries has spread in the region and it's been the mainstay of them and they've prospered. But there's a downside to that.
Let's talk about it.
Shall we?
Yeah, of course. Why not?
So at the time when we did strawberries, we had varieties of strawberries that gave their own runners.
Yeah.
And that variety, we did not need to bring in and import strawberry saplings
Italy
from
and
anywhere.
California and
or from
that.
anywhere.
Yeah.
Forget about Italy, California, we didn't have to buy it from a nursery. So every farmer who had their mother plants,
it would just
automatically,
keep sending runners,
they would send runners through the heavy monsoons and we would have strawberries plants for the next year. Also, we did not do any chemicals for it. Yeah. There was no pesticide that we used except for some amount of sulfur, gandak. There was no pesticides used because we didn't have any diseases coming in on our strawberries in those days. And one more thing, we did not have mulch. The plastic mulch that is being used.
Mulch,
the plastic mulch. I would say we did not have, the way we did strawberries was we had these beds where we flood irrigated. So we didn't even mulch then. I'm not saying it was the best of things. Later on, we did start mulching on other things. And then that gave us good strawberries. These other farmers watched us. They did it that way. It was in the early 90s when India got liberalized. We opened up our economy. when even the Californian strawberry farmers entered the Indian market.
Right.
And there was, one had heard that in Pune, there was this big seminar, this big conference being held, where all the farmers from all surrounding areas were attending. And out of curiosity, I too went. And actually, this whole meet was a complete, it was a blast, because there were some few thousand, at least maybe 2,000 farmers. It was a huge, huge mandap and, shamiana. And there were these people speaking to us. But actually, there were these monitors where we were able to see what the speaker was speaking. In that time, we didn't know about LCD projectors and all that.
Yeah.
So I was completely country bumpkin that I was completely flabbergasted with seeing, the speaker there so close. I didn't know whether to look at him there or to look at the screen here. And it was an overwhelming experience. And they offered at this meet, they were telling farmers that we will give you right from the packaging to the saplings to anything, even the big technology, all the inputs we will be supplying you. Don't worry, you will get everything from us. And I went back not knowing what it meant, but again, instinctively, it felt that this is not what I want to go for. So I kept my old variety of strawberries. But do you know that in a year after that, normally monsoon time, our strawberries would give off runners, and we would go, even there were weeds, we'd clear the weeds and we'd take our runners.
Bag them and plant them again.
Yeah. I went to see, after they had got, all the neighboring farmers had brought in Californian strawberries, our strawberry patch, I couldn't find the saplings that died. Something that never happened. So then we realized that the Californian varieties that came in brought in diseases that we had never experienced. And through the monsoon, normally we would sit tight in the monsoon, let them reproduce, and you knew we would have so many runners. We didn't have any. And that is what actually, when you think of it, we never used so many chemicals, and then started this saga of so many varieties of pesticides. And then, of course, the herbicides also came in, glyphosate and Monsanto, And we realized that that is what caused the diseases, and we should stay away. And so we didn't go back for strawberry cultivation for many years. But then one felt that if we can't get, I did look out, because we used to get some saplings from Bangalore. I did travel there, but we weren't able to get back those saplings that we had. And so I said, let me try the Californian variety organically without. And we did it and was successful. So our main work today is to try to influence farmers, and one of them is Rupesh, who's just behind us, who does strawberries organically. I mean, without any of these inputs, and it's possible.
Yeah, so is my work. And
yes.
I'm doing strawberries, and I'm doing the Italian ones. Zero pesticide, no sprays. If there's a pest attack, which unfortunately happens because I'm surrounded by strawberry farms who are pumping all kinds of pesticides. The downside of being the only organic farmer surrounded by chemical farming is that all those pests are going to come to your juicy fields and they're going to munch on everything. So I use neem and I use garlic and chili. I use bioenzymes. There are so many other things, and just using natural recipes, we've managed to keep the pests at bay. Integrated pest management, all these things are permaculture concepts. So
wonderful.
And we are getting gorgeous, juicy red strawberries. So it is
possible.
It is absolutely
Yes.
possible.
Yes.
But rewinding, okay, so you didn't do poultry, you did strawberries, you influenced the farmers. Um, it is the 70s. What drove you towards the windmill and the biogas and sustainability and mulching? Where was this input coming from? Were you reading a magazine? Because internet didn't exist, right? Were these a bunch of friends? Where was this input coming from? Why did you do it? What was the thinking behind it? And as the longest user of sustainable energy that I know, what are your thoughts on sustainable energy and alternate energy?
So, yeah, it came in again very, just organically, that all these ideas. Basically, one began to feel that, if we are trying to live in a natural way, it wasn't even exactly these specific thoughts, but just that feeling of being in a natural setting. We want, to generate your own electricity, or to get gas from
Human
cows or from human waste. But by the way, cows gives you the maximum amount of methane.
Yeah.
Human
Not so
night
much.
soil doesn't give so much.
Yeah.
That, or the pedal power to be able to cycle and to get energy, to make energy from that. Or I would say, since Tinkerbell, our cat, is here, is to have animals around who are the natural predators. So
Yeah.
we have been able to fight the mice problem by having cats who we don't go about overfeeding. We feed her once a day, and she is controlling the mice. So coming back to the energy, because she passed by, I thought I'd
Yeah.
tell you.
So it was just a natural instinct.
Yeah,
again.
it was just wanting to do things more in a natural way. And we tried out, we experimented with all the alternatives possible. And that much later, I must say, was Peter took a lot of interest in it. Yeah.
So this was after the PDC? With Francis,
Yes,
with
very
Robin
much.
Francis?
Yes.
So that's the seed,
permaculture.
right?
That was the seed for Peter, which I was very relieved that because otherwise it was a constant battle. And let me tell you at this stage that within 4 years of us living here in this way, when we first started, it was very tough. We had no money. We were so broke. It was all loans we were taking. We didn't dare ask our families. Later on, my dad said that, why didn't you ask me, and I could help out, but we didn't want to. The conflicts that arose with this, actually, I would say the Western scientific mindset and my wild kind of having lived in Mahabaleshwar and being a very country person. My family, we were Iranis. We were Zoroastrian Iranis.
Yeah.
And many of the Parsis like to say, or many of us used to say, Irani jungle.
They're junglis.
Junglis. And today, and even then, I took pride in it.
Yeah.
We are junglis.
That's
Of
amazing.
course, today the population has shrunk so much that we're all become one, and we all appreciate the Zoroastrians, just cherish each other, whether we're from Iran or Iranis or not. But so it was that kind of a background. So that, but when 4 years of living here, there was lots of experimentation also with substance and all happening. Do you know, we split up, my husband and myself. We actually divorced.
And this is which year?
This was 4 years after we started, 1972.
So 76, 77.
Yes. We actually divorced. And I was still very young. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So if I started, I was about 22. And, most of my friends hadn't even got married.
Yeah.
They were, and here I was married and I already had a child.
And you divorced.
And I was divorced. So I was very shattered by this experience. And I needed to find something to give me some
Channel
stability.
that energy, yeah.
And I came across yoga.
Mm.
I can't tell you how I'm grateful for that encounter. There's a yoga institute at Santa Cruz in Mumbai, where I went to do my yoga.
Mm-hmm.
I said, I just done a small little 7-day little workshop with at my friend's place. This was the time when I was really disturbed and divorced and feeling lost. And there was again an Iranian boy who had studied yoga. His name was Taba. He'd studied at our yoga institute. And I said to him after his 7-day course, I said, where did you learn all this? And he said, there's an institute in Bombay, the Yoga Institute.
What's it called? Do you remember?
The Yoga Institute at Santa Cruz, it exists.
It's called the Yoga Institute.
It is the oldest systematized institute.
Okay.
At least that's what our
Sure.
institute says.
Okay.
Where Sri Yogananda ji used to teach yoga. And then when I was there, when I attended, he was there. But there was Dr. Jaydev, who was our main teacher, Hansa Ben, his wife, and Sita Devi, his mother. The whole family taught us yoga.
Okay.
Out of them, today, only Hansa Ben remains. But she's a great proponent of yoga. These were my teachers. And there, I was exposed to the 8-fold path of yoga.
Okay.
Yeah. Which has the yamas, niyamas. And what are the 5 yamas? The 5 first steps of yoga. Ahimsa, non-violence. Satya, truthfulness. Astya, non-stealing. Aparigraha, non-greed. So these were the principles. They said yoga is not just a system of exercise and slimming and all that. And that steered my life. It gave me a mooring which I will never forget. And Dr. Jaydev emphasized karma yoga. The karma yoga from the Gita. And the 4 points that stay in my mind, that changed my life and brought my family back, where I reunited with my husband after 7 years.
This is the happy story.
I came back here.
Yeah.
It's because that the karma yoga taught me, and what Jaydev so beautifully distilled was work without ego. Not wanting the fruits of the action. With full concentration. And dedicate your work to something higher than yourself. Either to God or the higher reality, to nature, to your mother, to your lover, to your husband, to your family. Dedicate your work. Don't look for what you get. Just do it. And you can imagine at that time, I was in a low period. But when I would follow the principles of karma yoga, I began to see that my moods
were balanced.
Yeah. And it was like miraculous. And that gave me the biggest change in my life.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah. I mean, I can't tell you.
Yeah. That's amazing, Mona. What a story.
Yeah. I'm very grateful to them, and they know it. That It changed everything. I don't know why. I used to say that we went to all these schools. Why wasn't yoga taught in our schools? And
It beats me.
today,
Yeah.
I would like to say that yoga is not just butterfly posture.
Yeah.
It's more than the postures. It's way of life. It's
Yeah.
a full science. We never knew. I felt so cheated. I felt that I've gone through my education. That's why I was so rebellious in school. I didn't want to study because we weren't taught some of these important things. But I would like to say this again, or state that also. I went to a Christian school. And all the rules, regulations, and everything, I think I don't want to talk about it. But listening to the life of Jesus Christ, it made an impact. And I must say, this is where I can say that today I'm following Paramahansa Yogananda, who also acknowledges, because Mautar Babaji, who was his Param Guru, accepts that Jesus Christ was also a Mautar. So this is the universality of what it's all come to.
Yeah. For our listeners who want more context on this, there is a book called The Autobiography of a Yogi by Yogananda Paramahansa. It's extremely powerful. So I prescribe caution while reading this book. It might just, I don't know what it does to you, but it had a very deep impact on me and my father. And it established us deeper into our worldview of life and how to look at life and sort of push the boundaries of what's real, what's not. And it pushed us a little, it changed us a little. My father gifted that book to me.
Oh.
Yeah. And yeah, it's been deeply transformative to me too.
Oh, it's interesting.
So this
I didn't know
think
this.
Yeah. So
another connection.
So,
but I would like to say this to anyone listening to this. Initially, people reading this book feel it's a lot about miracles. And they get put off. Many people get put off. But I would say, give it a little
just
time.
Power through it.
Power through the first few chapters.
Yeah.
And then later on, the knowledge and the stuff that you get from this, it's just amazing.
Yeah.
Just wanted to
It's
add
a page turner, to say the least. So just humor the author, if you will, and just go through it. There's something to be taken from there for sure. So nature, yoga, you've been following your calling. There seems to be a voice that's guiding you from within. You split up, and 4 to 5 years later,
7 years.
7 years later, you reunite with Peter.
Yeah.
And then what? Like, are you guys still here? You're in Panchgani, in this house?
We are. Peter's passed away.
Okay.
Peter passed away in 2000.
No, I mean that when you reunited.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yes.
Yeah, you came back here.
I came back here. And that's when I would say one of the things that I requested Peter is that he do a little bit of the yoga at the Institute. So he got a kind of orientation of the trend. And before we came back here, I came and we then went, full onto the organic, because then we had the similar minds. Because earlier it was conflict. He didn't even want me to plant trees here. And neither did Mamad, because both of them went to strawberries. Strawberries need, they need sunshine. Farmers who just want to do vegetables, who are not looking at sustainability or the
ecology part of
the ecology part of things, the biodiversity, they would say don't plant trees. They would have them
Just spotted somewhere.
Spotted here and there. And I don't know, so somehow I wanted trees and they would not allow it. So that was also one of the things that caused conflict initially. So here we came back with the sort of a more of a coordinated, or I would
Common
say
ground.
common ground is the word.
Some kind of a common ground from where you can now unleash this beautiful space that we are sitting in.
Yes.
I have to appreciate you for doing all that you've done. I have to appreciate you for holding this work for us. Because it's in this that people like me many years later come, find inspiration, and try and dream of a life that we can lead together along with our partners, right? So I'm going to take a moment and really thank you for doing this work.
I'm grateful that you're saying that, and yet I want to say that we're just lucky. It's not us. There's a greater power and there's much more. There's all the knowledge and the wisdom that life has given us through all these things that we've talked about. It's just not us. We're just fortunate.
Yeah.
We're just fortunate. And one thing I'd like to add here is that I would like to share with others, don't look for the money or the profits. We never started with that. We just wanted to live a life with quiet and nature and just simple life. And somehow
This happened as a consequence of that life.
Abundance. Strange.
That's the design of nature.
Yeah.
She has abundance inbuilt in the design. You plant 1 grain of rice and it gives you 250.
Yeah. It came in different ways though. But yes. So when you thank me, I say, don't thank me. It's just something greater than any of us.
That's humble, but yeah, that's what it is. So Mona, I think let's get a little tactical. What can young parents do today to give the right kind of education and learning to their children?
So, what do parents do, to your question? One thing is, parents can take a lot of time out in nature with children, give them freedom of movement, and also summer homeschooling. Yeah. Or making small groups of people who have this same kind of thinking and trusting each other, and sort of giving that learning atmosphere to children. Something which we also experimented at Redstone.
I was just going to come to that. Let's talk about it a little. Because 2 of my very dear friends, Devansh and Rudransh, have been homeschooled by you. So let's talk about that experience. It's going to be interesting. Of all the things that you've dabbled with in life, this is another one of them. What triggered you to explore something as courageous as teaching a human being by yourself?
Well, it was again a combination of different experiences that we've had over the years. And our younger daughter, Uvi, she actually did go to a very, very unconventional school. It was called Gedde. It was in the Nilgiris. In fact, they used to have a little logo on their t-shirt saying, "Too cool to be a school, Gedde."
Gedde.
Gedde. It was somewhere in the Nilgiris.
How do you spell it?
Gaddai, I think.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So, but that was a very short stint. I persuaded Uvi that we'll try something else, and we put her in one of the Krishnamurti schools. But I lived in Bangalore because I felt that, being there for my daughter, the learning and the growing years of our children were very important. So lived in Bangalore, but it took too long for that school to set up their facilities for boarding. And then one day when we'd come here on a break and we were in the field, and I was explaining something about some insects and related to the plants. And Ovi said, she says, Mama, she says, this is just like school. Why don't we have school here? She kind of felt that there was a kind of science explanation happening, and it was being given just as well as she would get it in school. And she said, let's have school here. And I went up running to Peter, my husband, who was an excellent science teacher. And I said, this is what Ovi said, let's do it. And kind of that's what got it going. We went back to Bangalore because she was in the middle of the school year. And we kind of made up our minds. We started looking through all the bookshops with all the, there's very creative Cambridge learning books and all. And the school was nice enough to give us their mathematics course, which is a very creative mathematics course, the books and all. And we then, after giving them a notice and telling them, we returned with all this stuff, and we just said we're going to have a homeschool. And some of our friends said, you take our children. So we started, and that's how we told a few people, Rudranj's parents, Mandakini, Atul. We had a little orientation session where any parents interested, they came for it, and then they decided.
That is so amazing. All right, Mona, let's move focus to some curious questions that I have had for a while. But before that, if you could go back in time, we create a time machine and you can go back in time, and you meet 15-year-old Mona. Okay? What would you tell her?
Good question. Well, one of the things that comes to mind is that I would say, follow your dream. Just keep following your dream and watch the over impulsiveness, because that is what, when you're intuitive, you tend to want to just follow your intuition. On the other hand, being, just watching it. So learning from what we get from yoga, being mindful and focused, that is something I would have liked to have developed much earlier.
But that's what makes your life so colorful and interesting.
Yeah,
I mean, in hindsight, it would probably have been more average if you would have been mindful about every decision of yours. I think that impulse drives these beautiful adventures that you had in life. I would argue you should have held on to the impulse, but that's my hypothesis. Okay, next question. I'm extremely curious. You've mentioned a bunch of books, and we're going to put all these books in the show notes below. So what's on your bedside table right now? What's interesting you? And if you could recommend a bunch of books to people, what would those be?
So when you ask me about my bedside table today, it is the lessons of Paramahansa Yogananda that I'm reading. Actually, over the years, the books or the writings I've been influenced with, one was Gandhi's Talim in the school, setting of the school. So Gandhiji, he also talked on many things, and he was, he also had his thoughts on the Gita, but he also had his thoughts on how we develop a country, and he wanted it village-based. But with education, he called it Talim, and it was basic education. He felt that textbooks were the last to look at, that you need child needs to get into the production of life, living life. So if you were a cobbler, then you learn how to make the shoes, or if you're a farmer, you'd grow things, or spinner, you would spin. Today it would be, if you want to learn computers, you go into making a website, you actually do it, or whatever.
So learning by doing, in short.
Absolutely. And then if you come across a problem and you want the theory of it, then you refer to a textbook. It's not that the text, but so it's the other way around
The
in
textbook
schools.
is guiding you, hand-holding you all the time.
So Tagore, Gandhiji,
Gandhi's
yes.
Talim.
And same way with Tagore. Reading Tagore's experiments that he did. So there's a book by M. Hurst, who has written on Tagore's, not Shanti Niketan, but he had a school, experimental school.
Yeah.
Based on experiential learning, living life, where there'd be a bank and a post office, and the children are running it. And life. Okay. Then there's Fritjof Capra, who's written The Turning Point, the same author of The Tao of Physics. That book also was for me a very important book. Then on a philosophical level, there's a book called Journey to the East by Hermann Hesse. Hermann Hesse was the author who wrote Siddharth. And it's a small little simple book. But in that book, there's this group of people who are going on a little journey. And there was one person in that journey who was more or less as just somebody, just like carrying things and serving. But he was the key character. And when he left the group, everything fell apart. So humility and, being in that divine position doesn't mean that you have to be somebody shining, but it's service. So,
beautiful.
There are several.
So many, yeah.
The Idiot by Dostoevsky, where this character is the idiot, but he's the most sharp.
It's an amazing book,
person. Yeah.
The Karamazov brothers is also
yes,
by Dostoevsky.
So, and of course, then when we did permaculture and One Straw Revolution, and for those, Rachel Carson's Silent Spring is a very important book for people who are interested in land and understanding what chemicals do to us. And
I have a small recommendation for you. I wish I would have gotten this book for you, but it's called Braiding Sweetgrass. I don't know if you've read this.
No.
It's written by a Native American author, and I'm blanking out on the name, but we'll add it to the show notes. It's such a remarkable book. Braiding Sweetgrass is an analogy of making braids with grass.
Okay.
So you tend to the earth like she's your daughter, and there's a relationship with the earth. And there are so many foundational concepts in it. That's what's on my bedside table, and I'm going to gift you that book soon after. But thank you for those recommendations. Well, I think this was an enriching conversation, Mona. I'm going to close with one question that I ask everyone. If I would give you a billboard that the entire world could see for 24 hours, what would it say?
Well, the first thing that comes to mind is the word love. So, love is the essence of life, and if everything is done with love, then a lot of beauty comes out of it. Yeah. And whether it's not for nature or for your children or yourself. For self-love is very important. So, and to me, throughout my life, this actually it's been a sort of a semi-compulsion, but to the truth, to stay with the truth and have courage to stay with what is your truth and not be swayed by society or people, but to be able to find what is true to yourself and stay with it, however hard it may be. So that to me is one of the things that has helped me along and given me the courage to stay by what I want to do. But I must say that when it comes to, reining in certain, negativities that you may face, I've not been so when you're asking me what I would put on this billboard, I would say stay positive. Stay positive and have the faith that it's all well, that it's all going to happen. And however difficult a situation may come to you, everything that life brings you happens for the best.
This is amazing. I think my heart is full, Mona. Thank you so much for your time. This has been such an enriching conversation. This is the wonderful world of Mona. We are in her beautiful house right now. It's truly remarkable, the life that she leads. And I would strongly recommend everyone to at least come pay her a visit. She feeds you with all her heart. She has delicious kombucha. And it's just a beautiful, wonderful place to be. So if you're ever around Panchgani, please do visit Redstone. I promise you won't regret it. Yeah, I would like to, we have a small gift for you, Mona.
How sweet.
So we at Neil and Momo, we make some organic handcrafted soaps.
Oh, I didn't know you had this.
Yeah, shampoo bars, and we do fragrance bars, and we have some gobar dhoops inside.
Okay.
This is the stuff we make, and this is a small gift to you.
Thank you.
As a token of our gratitude. So
How
thank you
sweet.
very much.
Thanks. How nice. Okay. Lovely. I didn't know you had this.
Yeah, we had that. We have that. This episode is brought to you by Nature Care Fertilizers. I have been personally using Nature Care Fertilizers on my farm for the last 3 years, and the results have been outstanding. Not only is it good for your plants, but it's amazing for the environment as well. This is the complete solution to an evergreen revolution. If you like that video, please don't forget to like, share and subscribe, and don't forget to click the bell icon so that you never miss the next episode of The Root Cause.